the Chinese Communist Party has been collecting data on millions of Americans. Why are they doing this? They hacked into the Anthem medical insurance complex and have gotten a hold of the medical information of something like 78 million Americans. They hacked into the US government's Office of Personnel Management, and they got a hold of the background investigation reports with the raw information of 21 million Americans who have had security clearances over the last quarter century. They bought up an app, a company called Grindr, which is a gay dating app, where they have been able to get a hold of the information of who is a homosexual and whom they are dating. And of course, this has long been the kind of information that intelligence services want to get a hold of. Usually people think it's because they want to blackmail people, but in the case of the KGB, and I know other intelligence services, it is because they believe people who have same-sex attraction are people who they consider to be psychologically vulnerable and psychologically manipulable for espionage purposes. They have been collecting DNA. They own one of the major companies that even advertises on television. And so they say, send in a sample of your DNA and we'll tell you whether, you have certain kinds of ancestry. Maybe you'll even learn if you have Neanderthal blood in you, genes in you. And and they're collecting information from Facebook, from LinkedIn, from Twitter, from all of these different social media, where they are able to figure out the networks that people have. Who are your friends? Who are your family members? And of course, the idea here is behind this, there are a couple of purposes. One is, of course, espionage. And if you can learn, who are the members of a certain person's network, with whom do they do business, you can learn all kinds of information about them. You can learn about their sexual activities. You can learn about whether or not they do drugs. You can learn about whether they have some criminal backgrounds. There are all sorts of ways that intelligence services can recruit people, and having the more information about somebody and their personal life is absolutely essential to be able to have an effective recruitment. That's one purpose. The other is to develop massive databases in order to be able to control people here. And it is the beginning of an effort to try to control the American population, as if the Chinese government became the sovereign governors of the United States. It's as if it were preparing for having an occupation of the United States. This may sound very far-fetched to people, but look, let's look at history, where throughout the centuries, there are some countries that have occupied and controlled other countries. Take a look at how China has tried to control Vietnam for centuries, and has not extinguished the Vietnamese national identity, but certainly would have liked to have succeeded in doing so. And so if you can develop the kind of social control that they are developing inside their own country, where they collect so much information on their own people that they develop what they call a social credit score. And if somebody is more obedient to the party, never says anything that is contrary to the party line, is compliant, is cooperative, is helpful to the party in any way, then that person gets a high score. But if such a person says the wrong thing, says things that are offensive to the regime, is criticizing the regime over the dinner table, and somehow somebody learns what they said over the dinner table, these people get a low score. Collecting data on Americans could very well be a way of making social credit scores for us here in our own country. And you know, the Chinese have been buying up American real estate. They own a lot of American companies. They are investing in a lot of American companies. They're doing all sorts of things that are perfectly in concert with a policy of being able to control the United States so that we will no longer represent a threat to them. And how are we a threat to them? We are a threat because we are a democratic republic where people elect their representatives, and we have representative government and the rule of law. Our government rules with the consent of the governed, and this idea, the consent of the governed, is a mortal threat to the internal security of the Chinese Communist regime.